Okay, guys, don't be deceived for a nanosecond by the Democrats' dramatic warnings that the president better not fire Special Prosecutor Mueller, better not do it, don't do it, don't do it. They're actually hoping he'll do just that. Now that the credibility of the Russia probe is tarnished, after all the bombshell reporting we've been doing on this show across a couple of great news outlets, the anti-Trump bias of the investigators is off the charts. Firing Mueller may be the Democrats' only hope at this point. There's only one problem for them. The president isn't falling for it. He outsmarts them every time. Joining us now to analyze, Ken Starr was the independent counsel in the Whitewater investigation. He's joining us from New York, and in sunny Florida, Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Law professor emeritus, author of the book Trumped Up. Alan, you go from Martha's Vineyard to Miami Beach to, I mean, anything else. I mean, my goodness, it's great to see both of you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Let's start with you, Judge Starr. You just wrote a piece about the things that you're concerned about in this investigation. You still respect Mueller and Rosenstein, but you have some issues. But I want to start on this dramatic, dire series of warnings we're hearing from the Democrats about firing Mueller. The president said he's not going to fire Mueller. They've said it multiple times, but the drumbeat continues. What do you think it's about?
I don't know what it's about, but it's just it's a cul-de-sac. Because the president, I don't think, is going to fire Bob Mueller. He's being advised to. Some folks, very wrong-headedly, are saying, you need to fire Bob Mueller. Bad advice. It's the wrong thing to do. But I don't think the president is going to fall for it. And in fact, we hear from the White House, and we hear from the White House's lawyers, from the president's lawyers, not going to do it. It would just be terrible. We don't need another Saturday night massacre. Should Bob Mueller have been appointed in the first instance? It's a fair question. Back in May, I was saying, let's do not have a special counsel. I think and I agree with Alan on this, we overly criminalize so much of life in our politics together. We need to stop that. And so I'm also very concerned about the calls for the appointment of yet another special counsel.
Wow, it's ridiculous.
I think it's all wrong.
Yeah, let's go to Alan Dershowitz. Alan, on this issue of the Mueller firing, I mean, you get the sense that the Democrats are just kind of running out of steam. I think there's nothing happening, at least not yet, on the Mueller investigation that we know of, at least. So it's almost like they have to keep the fumes going, and this is all they have. I mean, all day on the other networks, that's all they're talking about.
Right. Look, my liberal colleagues on the left have been proved empirically wrong in everything they've said. They said the Supreme Court would strike down the travel ban. It looks like they're going to uphold it. They said the emoluments clause has been violated. Today, a federal judge said that's a nonsensical argument. They were wrong about Flynn. They're wrong about firing Mueller. They've just been wrong. It's not because I'm smarter than they are that I've been right and they've been wrong. It's they put hope over reality. I'm just an analyst. I'm just calling it as I see it. And it's easy to be right if you're objective and call it the way it is. I think what's happening is both sides are playing the refs. But I think the Trump side is playing them smarter. What they're doing is keeping the pressure on Mueller. They're questioning his integrity. They're challenging whether he had conflicts of interest. They're questioning whether he should have gotten a warrant. And they're hoping that since they're putting pressure on him and he has such concern about his reputation, that he may lean over backwards in a close case to support the Trump side. And the other side are playing the refs. They're just saying, if we push hard enough and say he's going to fire him, he's going to fire him, he's going to fire him, maybe we'll goad him into firing him. But right now, the Trump side is coming off better because I think they have Mueller where they want him. And the last thing Trump should do, and I think would do, is fire Mueller at this point.
No. The firing Comey wasn't the best choice. Obviously, the last thing you want to do is
that wasn't a smart
Judge.
Move.
Judge, I want to go to you.
Move.
Yeah, I want to go to you on the Uranium One reopen of the investigation that Jeff Sessions has announced, and looks like they're going to look at that all anew. You are concerned about this because of a number of connections from that deal to the Clinton Foundation specifically. Tell us what the big red flags are.
Well, the big red flags are this multi-year process by which now the transaction was completed years ago was accompanied by enormous gifts to the Clinton Foundation. $31 million was the first gift after the first part of the deal was signed in Kazakhstan back in 2005. And then gifts kept coming in from these senior officials from this company. Again, it went through reorganization and so forth, acquisition. And so I'm very deeply concerned about the timing, including President Clinton's speech for $500,000 in Russia, the Russia connection. I think all these things, I've always been in favor of transparency. I want to know the facts. I think we need to be cautious about criminalizing everything that moves. But in terms of our politics, we need to get the facts out.
Alan.
I agree. I agree completely. I completely agree. I think we need transparency. That's why I called for a nonpartisan, independent investigatory commission like 9/11, which wasn't pointing fingers at people criminally, but its goal was to try to find out everything about Russia's involvement in elections, Russia's involvement in the economy, and then make recommendations for how to stop Russia from trying to influence our democracy. I think the worst way to do it is through a special counsel behind closed doors of the grand jury. All you get in the end probably is either an indictment or not indictment of some low-hanging fruit.
Alan, do you think it's interesting at the very least that you had Comey, Rosenstein, you had McCabe and Mueller? They were all involved in one way or another in that Rosatom investigation. When they first approved the deal and they looked into the investigation, they were all part of it. It's just, there's like 5 people who seem to do everything at the department.
But remember, they come from totally different backgrounds. There's no way they have any political interests in common. Mueller is a Republican. Rosenstein, we don't even know what his politics was. He was appointed by Obama, having been appointed previously. The idea of Clinton getting $500,000, George Bush I, I think, got fees like that when he spoke in Japan. Former presidents get big fees when they speak. Again, I don't want to point the finger of criminalization at anybody, but I want to see, like Ken wants to see, transparency. Let all the facts be laid out for the American public to see. That's the way democracy works.
When a Russian interest, through a Canadian purchase, is able to get control of 20% of our uranium interests, went through this interagency process, and all this money's floating to the Clinton Foundation at the same time through people with interest in the transaction or connections to the transaction, I mean, you could ask a person on the street and they would say that was a bad idea. I mean, someone who has nothing to do with the law or nothing to do with the Committee on Foreign Investment, they would say, gosh, that seems really stupid, in my view. Let you close it out.
My focus is on the fact that there were these enormous gifts to the Clinton Foundation. It's not whether there was a proper interagency process, the 9 agencies that approved it and so forth. It may have been exactly the right thing to do. But why were these gifts, enormous in size, given year after year after year to the Clinton Foundation?
I don't think it's a good thing to do, Judge, to have a Russian interest. Everyone's always afraid of Russia. Now Russia owns 20% of a uranium stake, and we all think, oh, well, that could have been a good thing. I don't understand how you think that could be a good thing.
But I think it's very clear that countries like Kazakhstan and others honestly believe that you need to give gifts to get things done. That doesn't mean the Clinton Foundation did anything wrong. The Clinton Foundation's wonderful work abroad for AIDS and everything else. They spend every penny on doing good. So what you're looking at is the intention of the Kazakh authorities. That's very different than pointing the finger at the Clintons.
All right, both of you have a wonderful holiday.